give you Singapore's response. Our first panelist speaker, a barrister, was talking about law. Do you know that Singapore is the center for international law? Okay, we do a lot of legal arbitration between countries. In order to do that, our English must be of a high standard. Right? So that is our response. As I told you already, we look on English as a goal. Which language can give us economic success? Which language can fulfill all the hierarchies of Maslow, that means your basic needs? We want to enjoy the goods of this world. So we became the center of international law, and we have the people who has that level of English to administer international law dispute. Our second panelist talked about, second panelist came from the medical faculty. Do you know that in Singapore, we have many hospitals, private hospitals. We have clients mainly from our neighbors, Indonesia, Malaysia, China. They come to our hospital because our doctors speak English. The fees are very, very high. Singapore per capita income is first in Asia. We have beaten Japan 3 years ago as the most expensive city, the highest per capita income in Asia. I know that Pakistan was there in the 1960s, but you have been left far behind. I don't know why. Anyway, I'm not going into that. So, we became the medical center. Our neighbors, our rich neighbors are willing to pay that. From Southeast Asia and the Asian region, we have a lot of Chinese coming to our hospitals. I know that your doctors can speak English too, okay, but you have other problems in your country that may prevent you from becoming the medical hub in this region, okay? So that is our response. It makes money to speak English, because if you go to the doctors in the other countries, you can pay like 20% of the price for the same operation, but you don't understand what they're saying. So you feel very uncomfortable. Okay. Now to our third panel speaker, and you are from the business profession. Okay. Now, English is the language of international business. It is the language of the advertisers. You can go to any shop, okay, and you look at a product. If the words are in English, you have to pay more. Alright? If the words are in any languages, Thai, or Urdu, or any Indonesian, you pay less, even for the same product. Let's say Colgate. You can recognize the Colgate brand, can't you? You can recognize the Nestle's brand, can you? But if the Nestle's is put in a local language, you pay less. If Coca-Cola comes in the Thai language, I pay 30% less. But the taste is the same. We know that English is the language that we can make the most money by. Alright? And we going in for that. That is why in our schools, we teach English not by any method. We have discarded methods. We teach English by the fastest way possible to be proficient. And that is English as a medium of instruction. English in all the content areas. So they will say, don't tell me that your mother tongue is not English and you can't learn geography and history and social science in English. Don't tell me that, because we are all learning that, because it's the fastest way, because you go 6 hours in school of science and maths and it's all in English. The maths lesson is the English lesson, the social science lesson, English lesson, everything is in English. Alright, so every lesson is an English lesson. Isn't that fast? Let me now go to our fourth speaker, who is from the education industry. We know that English education makes the most money. Do you know that in and for that saying also, if you teach English, if you are an English teacher, compared to say a Malay teacher, Urdu teacher, whatever teacher, you always make more. Alright? Because people pay to learn English. Whereas you have to pay the students to learn some other language. And so in education, we find that we have students, there are lots of international students. Alright, we also have lots of students from Pakistan. But nowadays, many of them have gone to Malaysia because they can't afford to go to Singapore anymore. You go to Malaysia, it's just 10 minutes away by road. It's just 10 minutes away. Everything is 1/3 of the price.
Oh.
The hospitals, the schools, the university. Isn't that great? 1/3 of the price. So we used to have a lot of Pakistanis, all right, but now to come to our universities, but now they go to Malaysia. All right. Now, so in education, we export our education. Who do we export to? Well, we export to China, to the Koreans, to the Japanese. You know why? Some of them can't afford to travel all the way to UK or to the US. You need to be rich. So Singapore is the next best place. It's not as expensive. It's just slightly less expensive. It's about the same price as Australia and New Zealand. I think it's the same price as Australia and New Zealand. Then why don't we go to Australia as native speaker? But if you come to Singapore instead of Australia, same price, the tuition fees the same, cost of living the same. But in Singapore, buy one, get one free.
Oh, excellent. Very good. Oh, selling.
You buy English, you pay for English, you get Mandarin free.
Oh, yes. Very good.
Can Australia give you that? And so this is very attractive to the Koreans, alright? Because you know the Koreans and Japanese speak English very badly because they don't do English as a medium of instruction. They do English as a subject, alright? And so they find that let's go to Singapore. Our children will be safe because if you go to America, your children may be mugged. And most of all, you get Mandarin free. Okay, so we make a lot of money on that. So that's why we say, let's go for English, for law, for medicine, for business, for education. Okay, and therefore it's very easy for us. We became rich. All right, so that now, you know, it's very rare to find a Singaporean now because most of the Singaporeans today they are not born there. They are migrants. They are permanent citizens. Okay, so we are in, I think, like a minority now. All right. So I mean, it just makes sense to us. Now, how did we do this without the civil strife and the riot? Maybe I'll just quickly tell you this, and then I will conclude. How did we do this? Just to cut a long story short. You know that Lee Kuan Yew is the Muhammad Jinnah of Pakistan, right? He's just passed away. Just like Nehru, just like Bandaranaike, just like Jinnah, just like Tunku Abdul Rahman, all the Asian leaders, they went to Cambridge University. They went to Lincoln's Inn, you know what I mean? They were about the same generation, all right? And they went there, and they came back with ideas of parliamentary democracy, etc., etc. But there was this language thing. They all came to countries where there were diverse languages spoken, all right? Lee was a classmate of Bandaranaike. He went to Sri Lanka. He made Sinhalese the national language. Look what happened, civil war for 40 years. You know, and then completely, Sri Lanka is still in the third world, all right? We became first world in the 1980s. Why? English as a medium of instruction. And What was he, how was he able to make us accept his policy? Let me tell you this, that he's the only world leader I know who has killed his mother tongue. Do you know any leader like that? He says, follow me. Alright, I'm not going to make my mother tongue, which actually is Peranakan Malay. Alright, Baba Malay, he's Baba Malay, he's hybrid Creole. His mother tongue is Creole. It's just like mine, I'm also Creole, because I'm 6th generation. Okay? He says, let's forget about this. I am not going to make my children learn my mother tongue. Of course, he made his parents very angry, but I'm not going to make my parents learn my mother tongue. I'm going to send them to Mandarin schools, which is completely different language, is a northern language. Okay? And he says that I am not going to promote my mother tongue. And in fact, I'm going now to learn Mandarin. So he went to learn Mandarin at the age of 30, which is a completely unintelligible language. Okay? He also learned Hokkien. So he says, follow me, I'm going to do that. And in his autobiography, he says that when I decided to learn Chinese, which is not my mother tongue, okay, and I've given up my mother tongue, it was like going to the temple and lifting up the urn. In the Chinese temple, there's a very big urn where you put a lot of joss sticks. That urn weighs a ton. He says it was like lifting that up every day. And every day I had to do that because I had to learn a new language at the age of 30 because I wanted to show you all, if I can do it, you can do it. Don't say that you don't want to learn Mandarin, because he says that Mandarin will be a lingua franca. We said that in 1970, way before anybody was learning Mandarin, we said, you have to learn Mandarin. We will have to eliminate all your dialects overnight. All the radios and television, all the Chinese languages were banned. My mother couldn't understand a word on television. And today, Baba Malay, which is Lee Kuan Yew's mother tongue, you can only hear it in a museum. You see how fast it is, within a generation, gone. New 2 world languages, and he says, this language will make us rich. Do you want to be rich? Do you want to be first world? Do you want to be able to send your children to any university in the world? You can afford it. Do you want that? So, and he says, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to kill my mother tongue. Have any world leader ever said that? How can we say no to him? How can we go to the streets and riot when he's doing that? I just, and so we were just like, oh. So this was what happened. Alright, we got our independence in 1965. That's just about 50 years ago. Okay? And as I said, in 1965, well, we were admiring Pakistan because it was a jewel in the British Empire. It had the tallest building in Asia. It was second only to Japan. And that was what we did. And I hope that's my contribution. Just something for you to think about.